we've had to become students of startup. Intel has a proud history. I love working for the company. We make really cool stuff out there. I have the greatest job on the planet. It's cool technology, but the innovation that Intel delivered in its early years, which was that big company thing that I was describing, it was big programs with big intent, operating to big schedules. And we've been watching as students of the past decade of innovation and watching a collapse in the time it takes in the effort it takes to generate an idea, in the time it takes to test it in market, in the resources it takes to bring it to market. It's extraordinary watching that screen-based world. And we live in, we make chips. We make these things that are embedded in compute devices, but we and many others are interested in embedding them into everything for the reasons I described earlier. And so the question became, how do we apply our non-big team? We throw thousands of people at these magnificent initiatives, thousands of very smart people to make these things, but we needed to find a new and different way of pacing, of taking risk with low cost, and of delivering fast. And so we pulled together, there were several references earlier this morning that I was sitting at the table nodding continuously. There's some fundamentals that seem to always apply, but small team, it isn't big anymore, it's small. It's not big that beats small, I shouldn't say small, it's fast, but usually fast means small. It's the fast that beat the slow, not the large that beat the small. So we pulled together a team that we're almost a quarter of a century in the country now, so we've this high-tech manufacturing, we have development arm, and we have research arm. So we pulled 70 people into a core team across those disciplines, and a bunch of smart people from external, a bunch of great startups littered around Dublin, there's around Italy. We reached far and wide, mostly across Europe. And so there's a great deal of diversity. If for those of you who spent time in Intel, we're not good at long hair and nose rings, and man, do we have we changed that part of how Intel looks, and about time too. It's a reflection of a break the rules attitude that was fundamental to how we needed to do business. So it was important within that big company to leverage what's good about it. What is it that's your strengths? Who was it? John, I think, this morning was talking to the importance of knowing what your strengths are and how to apply those strengths. So there are advantages to being huge, but there are deep disadvantages, and we need to work out how to deliver and protect within the large company a small group that was allowed to be innovative, that still had goals you needed to achieve or you weren't getting the next round of funding, but the rate of failure went way up, which was the key indication to us that our rate of success was. We were learning far faster than we've done before. And so that's the long answer. The short answer is, yeah, absolutely you need to do it differently. Big companies need to start thinking fast and small. We need to start breaking ourselves down into clumps and entities that leverage the government, and the IDA and the Irish government were fantastic, that leverage universities, key partners for us throughout this program, and leverage the core competencies that we have.
Like almost any business at this point in our evolution, the financial services business is basically a technology business. Everything is technologically enabled. I think Philip hit on some really interesting points that are really kind of a hot button for me. And in fact, in doing some research, kind of preparing my thoughts for the day, I came upon a concept that I hadn't heard before. But when it was talking about big companies and kind of barriers to innovation in big companies and barriers to really, agility and nimbleness in big companies, and it was the term that big companies are full of status quo police, right? One model for success, personal, career, professional success within a big company, is to keep your mouth shut and sort of blindly follow the status quo, right? Especially when you get into conservative industries like financial services. And I think the real challenge is, how do you break through those barriers? How do you take that natural kind of childish, desire to change and innovate and really kind of foster that and enable that? And those are things that we think a lot about, and it's not easy. There are a lot of things that you need to do, but the formula and the ingredients are exactly those that Philip outlined.
The energy is probably one of the most traditional industries around. Every other industry has had to cope with the disruptive technology at some stage in its development. And to a greater extent, electricity has not had that challenge as yet. Perhaps wind was the beginning of change, but there is disruptive technology coming. I don't believe that the traditional way of large thermal and hydro plants is going to survive. There will be a new industry model. Energy is the new technology. And you know, when I got this job, and Philip may have the best job on the planet, but I certainly have the best job in Ireland. Fortunately, I inherited a very, very creative team. And we decided to focus our efforts on three things. One was to look at all the disruptive technologies that are coming down the road and to put them into a technology roadmap. The second was to think about formulating collaboration with the major industries that are in Ireland and also the educational institutions, and to put that on a more commercial win-win basis, because up to now I think ESB has been treated more like a dumb terminal than an intelligent partner, and we need to change that. And the third thing was to look at capturing the home, or capturing the customer, because you know, Philip spoke about things and intelligent things. I believe that when time of day tariffs become a reality, and they will, that the smart management of the home is going to be the next big breakthrough, and I want to make sure that ESB is part of that.
Our role, I suppose, is as a funder to find ways to help stimulate innovation. And we're based out of the Department of Education and Skills, so it's no coincidence that our key focus is on producing innovative people. In fact, Minister Sherlock summarised it, I think, quite succinctly recently when he said our role was to lead the development of innovative and creative people, particularly at the early stages of their career. So we're very much focused on funding postgraduate students and postdocs across all disciplines and all areas, because as he said, we need a diversity of skills coming through from different areas, feeding into the overall system. So we're very much like planting seed corn. So I suppose to come back to your question, one of the things we want to do in order to actually provide the types of skills that are needed and the type of people that are needed, that are innovative, creative, that can have analytical skills, that have information processing skills, which is going to be so important going into the future, which was referred to, is we're trying to develop and tailor programs that actually are context specific to Ireland. And that's the types of programs I mentioned earlier, the Enterprise Partnership Scheme, but more particularly the innovation we have put in place last year, the employment-based scheme. And we've been very fortunate this year. Effectively, we're doing a second year of pilot, and we have had support from other agencies like SFI, the Marine Institute, Teagasc, Enterprise Ireland are helping us market the programme. So we, in effect, I suppose, are not so much about putting in place disruptive technologies. We are actually generating, we hope, disruptive agents who actually will go out there and actually be the type of people that will innovate within existing companies, or indeed create new companies. And it's interesting actually being on the podium with Philip this morning, because in the same week that you had the big announcement, an example that has just come to mind is that a former Enterprise Partnership Scheme individual, Trevor Parsons, and another Irish Research Council funded individual, William Hullub, got 10 million in Series A funding in the US for their startup called Log Entries. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And that is the type of thing we're trying to do. We're trying to create these type of people. Now, unfortunately, they're largely based in the US. They do have a base here, but that precisely is what we're about. And as I said, I think the really startling thing we found last year, and in fact, at the launch of the results from the pilot scheme, everyone, pretty much, it's about 80% of the companies in the room, a lot of them might have been doing a bit of development, but I think the really startling thing was a lot of them were new, coming into this space, trying to engage, look at innovating, looking at doing a bit of research. And we feel this programme now can actually be positioned almost as that sort of low entry type programme for those types of companies to actually engage and then go on further to engage with Enterprise Ireland. So that's what we hopefully will contribute to the ecosystem.